Hey Morgan, it's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I am wonderful and blessed. Thank
Mm,
you for asking and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
beautiful. I love that. That's a great word. And thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate it. And you see, Morgan, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become an anthem for me. So firstly, I want to say thank you so very much, Morgan, for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invest in yourself. And oftentimes, Morgan, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Morgan, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Morgan, just recently I was on that same road, and this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches, and not just mangoes now, Morgan. I'm talking about very ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely moment that day. I was so excited. I kept on staring at the beauty of the fruit, the branches, the leaves. It was amazing. There's my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Morgan that you are today, that alone has made it really impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request for me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing. Your philosophies, your insight, the impact your work is having, how you're offering your solutions. These stuff are amazing. And just before you
Mhm.
got a text from me, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Morgan is doing. Not only me now, but even the audience. And here we are today with the amazing Morgan. So thank you so very much for doing that yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elijah could do about it. Thank you so much.
Good to be here with you. I really am.
Yeah.
Um, I find that when all of us tap into what guides us internally and what speaks to us and how we share that with others, it really does make our journeys so much better when we give and we share insight from each of our areas of specialty. So
That's
thank you
so
for
true.
giving me this format.
Beautiful, and thank you so very much for being here. So let's get started. You see, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today, Morgan, for two reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. Just like you mentioned earlier, I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Morgan, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and
Hmm.
not just knowledge now, but the application of it. And you see, ever since I realized that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listener. The second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Morgan on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, Morgan, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, high opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, Morgan, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Morgan got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Morgan, over to you.
Thank you. So I actually stumbled upon my career and what ended up speaking to me about how I could help others and be in service to others. So I have spent the last 25 and a half years dealing solely with tax debt. So, and here in the United States, what happens is People will run a business and they have employees and they have to collect the tax from the employees' paychecks and hold it in trust to turn over to the government. But when something happens in the business and the financial condition of the business is threatened, a lot of business owners will take those monies out of employees' paychecks and not intending to do anything wrong, but then use those monies to finance the company through a tough period. Then they get out to the other side of it and they owe the federal and state governments. It could be $25,000. It could be $100,000. It could be $500,000. At that point, they say, oh my gosh, I'm getting these threatening letters. I'm getting threats of bank account levies, of accounts receivable levies. I don't know what to do. That's when people find me and I step in as the power of attorney and I work on their behalf with the IRS and state governments and come up with a solution. So isn't that an interesting area of specialty?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting and very powerful and very important. Because I
Very.
believe I believe there are some folks who really and desperately are in search for solutions like yours that they haven't found yet.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm so glad to have you on a podcast today because I believe we're going to impact a whole lot of people. Okay, so I've gotten some questions here. So I want you to talk more on this. All right. How did you get into tax debt resolution?
I was working as a manager for a candle store, bored out of my mind, and I answered an ad for an administrative assistant. And I firmly believe that God, the universe, however it resonates with you, it was divine intervention. I was meant to see that ad, and I answered it, and I stumbled into this entire corner of the tax world that I still am inspired to get up and do every day. And doing something for over 25 years and still being inspired to get up and do it every day, it has to be something that means more to you than a paycheck. And I'm very blessed to have found that.
Your purpose, exactly. And that's one thing about finding your purpose. It always satisfies and fulfills you all the time. I got that. So why do most people end up with tax debt? Can you talk to us about?
Yes, it's usually just an accident. I've had a lot of individual taxpayers who have gotten sick or they had to stop working to tend to a parent and they were draining money out of a 401k to subsidize their living situation for a while and they got penalized for it. We've had situations where it'll be a year after a natural disaster and people are scrambling to try to make ends meet. Businesses where embezzlement has happened, theft has happened, and it was the payroll taxes that got taken. Um, there are 1,000 different ways that somebody can accrue a tax debt. And it is, you hear about these people who end up going to jail because of a tax debt. Those are the extreme cases. Those are the cases where usually somebody was given advice to um, petition having to pay tax to begin with, or somebody who was sold on a very extreme idea, or sometimes you see it with celebrities like Wesley Snipes, Willie Nelson, Shakira. All these people had money managers in place that did not guide them the right way. But for the common person, it just happens accidentally, and before you know it, it snowballs. I had a client who recently hired us. They had inherited some money from a parent that had passed away, and instead of getting with their advisor, their accountant or their CPA, they spent the money. And it just worked out. Had they invested that money into a type of investment vehicle, they could have taken it tax-free, but because they didn't, they ended up using it to build a barn and buy a few horses and improve on their property. It turned into taxable income because of the way they used it, and it cost them over $50,000 in tax that they had not anticipated. So, yeah, it happens for a variety of reasons. I have never come across a client where it was intentional, though. So that is something, and I've helped thousands of people over the years.
Wow, I tell you, I never knew all of this. Thank you for educating us, Morgan.
Mhm.
Okay,
You
so
bet.
for personal taxes now, who do we owe? Is it IRS or the
It can be both, depending on what state you live in. Some states in the US do not have state income tax, but most of them do. So you could owe taxes to your state and the IRS, or one or the other.
beautiful? Okay, so what should one do if one is scared about the tax bills that one is receiving?
Mhm. First thing to do is not panic. Panicking is the worst thing you can do. I have a lot of clients who come to me and say, "Well, I started getting notices from the IRS or the state, and I just started putting them in a drawer in my desk, just figuring I'll deal with it when I can." And before you know it, 2 or 3 years go by, and all those debts have not only include penalties, but they've also had interest charged on them as well. And before you know it, a $50,000 debt can turn into 80,000. So if you're starting to get notices, know that there is always a solution, and don't give the debt more power than it deserves. It is a bill, you need to deal with it. But there's always a solution. You just have to face it and say, okay, this may stink for a while. I may not be comfortable financially for a while, but I can get to the other side of it. And get with an advisor, get with somebody like me, or get with your CPA or accountant. They'll be able to help give you a bit of insight if it's something that you can handle personally, or if it's something where you should get a specialist involved.
Got that, got that. So, what's the most common question new clients ask?
Ah, will I go to jail? That is seriously the number one question that I get from every new client. And you have to remember the tax agencies have created this deep-rooted fear on purpose because our tax system in the United States is dependent on people volunteering to comply. And I know it's not saying volunteering to pay, but volunteering to comply with the rules. It's just like driving a car down the road. You voluntarily follow the rules of the road because if of the fear of the consequences. You could get a ticket from the police. If it's very egregious, you could cause harm to others and end up going to jail. Same thing with taxes. It's that same philosophy of it is my duty to follow these tax rules, and we do it for fear of what could happen if we don't. And the tax agencies have done a very good job of giving that fear to us in such a way that it's very deep rooted.
I got that, and I understand the example too. So, you mentioned that you've been into this for over 25 years. Now, there's something I believe is so inevitable, which is challenges. So, how has the journey been so far, and how have you been able to handle those difficult moments?
Oh, we recently went through a really big one with COVID. So the federal and state governments, a lot of them closed down. Like everything just came to a grinding halt. If you were on a resolution to address an old debt, they stopped taking payments. if you were submitting tax returns to be processed, they ended up going into the back of tractor trailers and being stored until employees could return. Since then, all of the systems within the IRS and state governments, that it was a well-oiled machine, right? You knew if you submitted paperwork within 6 to 8 weeks, it would be processed and then you'd get a notice. Well, all of those systems broke down. And they tried to start them back up when people returned to the office, but the internal structures in the IRS and the state governments were so broken that here we are years later in 2025, and we still run into system issues. I've had resolution proposals before the IRS for a year and a half, and they still don't have the ability to handle it. And that is a challenge that can be extremely frustrating to work through. And it's frustrating for taxpayers. For instance, I have one where the IRS made an error with assessing additional tax to one of my clients. She had additional tax of over $150,000 assessed to her erroneously. We have submitted all the paperwork to prove that it is an incorrect assessment, and we've been waiting for a year and a half for them to fix it and return money that they took from her for it. So that it's been frustrating, but it's all that we can do right now. You know, we've taken every measure we can, and it's unfortunately just a wait situation. So that's been a challenge.
Oh boy, it's a challenge, sure. And the beautiful part
Yeah.
of it is you are still going, never giving up, keep pushing
Mhm.
and doing your thing. I love that about you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
finally, yeah, what advice would you like to give to folks who are about to start business now? Like, take for instance, we've got some folks listening who just want to
Mhm.
start their businesses. So, what advice would you
The best thing you can do is if you estimate that it's going to take, let's say, for example, $50,000 to start your business, expect it to be 75,000. Okay. Don't underfund your project before it even gets started. Always have a safety net in place if it's going to be more than you anticipate. The second thing that I would recommend you do is align yourself with a licensed enrolled agent or CPA who can give you guidance as you start the process. Think of them as a member of your board. Okay, because these are highly educated people who have helped hundreds, if not thousands, of business owners during their career. And they're going to be able to share with you not only their education base that gave them their license, but also all of the practical experience that they've seen by helping all these other business owners. They're going to be able to commit that experience and knowledge to you and your business and help you as you open it and start taking your first steps. So it's really important to get a good advisor.
It's really important, very, very important. And that's a
Mhm.
great advice. Thank you for sharing that with us. So, for folks
You
who
bet.
like to reach out to you, Morgan, or ask questions, or they
Mhm.
want to be a part of the beautiful stuff you're doing, how can that be possible?
Please look me up online. You can just Google Morgan Q. Anderson. It will dump you into all of our social media, into our company website, Golden Lion Tax Solutions. My direct contact information is on our website. Reach out to me. I am happy to help anybody, even if it's, hey, I'm in Kentucky and I need a good CPA. I can put you in touch with somebody that is vetted, that I personally know, who will make sure to take care of you. If you need a bookkeeper, if you have a tax debt question, please don't hesitate reaching out to me. We are very giving of information. Always happy to help.
Always happy to help. I love that. Beautiful. So, that's going to be the end of the show, Morgan. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this
Thank
beautiful
you.
stuff with us. It means a whole lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You bet. Thank you so much.